What's up guys, LeopoldTheBrave here, and it's 2020! Not just a new year for games, but a new decade for games as well. And it's gonna be super exciting to look forward to what we're getting. The Final Fantasy VII remakes, the PlayStation 5, Breath of the Wild 2... But today we're going to be looking back. Just like last year, I'm gonna cover all the games I enjoyed in the previous year. I may do one for the entire decade later, but for now it's just 2019. Now, before I get started, these are the top games I played in 2019, not the top games that came out in 2019. It doesn't matter how old a game is, if the first time I ever played or experienced it was in 2019, it's allowed on the list. And I say that for a reason, because there were actually a lot of 2019 games that I didn't play this year. Or games in general, as this is a top 8 instead of a top 10, which makes me kinda sad. I'll try to fix that in 2020. But yeah, if there's a game that came out in 2019 that you really enjoy but doesn't make the list, it's not because I didn't like it, I probably just didn't play it. With all that said though, let's begin.
Excuse me, Count Vulgar.
It's Vega!
Yeah, whatever.
Number 8 is Katamari Damacy Reroll. Now, I've been super interested in this game and have known about it for a very, very long time. Through YouTube countdown artists, to references made towards it in other Namco games, but for some reason I have just never been able to get my hands on it. I either didn't have the money at the time or forgot the name at the time. But at the beginning of January 2019, while waiting for another game on this list to release, I was able to pick up the HD remaster on the Nintendo Switch. And I honestly had a great time with it. The gameplay is addicting and relaxing, the music is very nice, and the story is quite charming. It'll give you plenty of fun for an hour or two, and I really mean an hour or two because this game is actually really short and small, even for a PS2 game. Which is one of my main gripes, especially since it reuses a lot of levels and assets for some of its missions. But I suppose that's understandable as it was initially developed as a school project with a budget of less than $1 million. Either way though, Katamari Damacy rolls its way into number 8.
Excuse me, Count Vulgar.
It's Vega!
Yeah, whatever.
Alright, I'll be honest, I think I have a problem with Rockstar's games. Not the games themselves, just I have issues playing them. Because last year I bought Rockstar's Bully while waiting for the release of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I bought it like a week before the release of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And since then, despite enjoying my time with the game, I just haven't been able to get back around to it for some reason. And the same thing has happened here with Red Dead Redemption 2. I bought it while waiting for the release of another game like 3 or 4 weeks before, and I just couldn't start the story beyond the tutorial mission. I was having too much fun goofing off, and before I knew it, the game I was waiting for was here. It was really fun to just ride horses, explore the terrain, rob trains, hunt animals, trade in materials, and of course online was pretty decent. I wouldn't put it on the same level as GTA Online, but it's still way up there. While I may have stopped for now, hopefully I can actually get started sometime in the near future. Red Dead Redemption 2 rides into number 7.
Excuse me, Count Vulgar.
It's Vega!
Yeah, whatever.
And now we finally come to our first 2019 game on the list with the Medieval remake. And I actually had a very unique experience with this remake compared to other ones like Crash and Spyro. Because unlike those, I actually never grew up with the original Medieval, so this was my very first experience ever. And I really enjoyed my demo of the game, so I was super excited to try out the full thing. However, once you get past the point of the demo in the full game, that's when the problems of it start to show a little. You see, with the Crash and Spyro remakes, they were faithful to the original, but they did improve in places that needed improving. Medieval, as people are saying, is a little too faithful, as it apparently leaves in some of the issues and outdated design flaws of the original. But either way, I enjoyed my first time experience with the series, and I think it did a pretty okay job living up to the hype and expectations it built as a newcomer. I feel like I'd totally understand the demand for its return if I grew up with the game. The Medieval remake buries itself in the number 6 spot.
Excuse me, Count Vulgar.
It's Vega!
Yeah, whatever.
Now this is a game I've been trying to get my hands on for ages. In fact, I actually have had it for quite a while when I bought the Jak and Daxter trilogy on my PlayStation 2 several years ago. But you see, Jak and Daxter and Jak 2 worked fine, while Jak 3 didn't. They were used copies after all. You see, this is why physical and digital media need to coexist. One isn't better than the other. So towards the end of 2019, I bought the Jak and Daxter trilogy on the PlayStation 4, resisted the urge to skip ahead to 3, and played 1 and 2 first, before eventually playing and beating 3 in time for 2020. It admittedly had a pretty rough start, but overall it was more than worth the wait, and probably ended up being my favorite in the entire trilogy. Since it was no longer trying to appeal to the edgy teen crowd whose parents buy them GTA before they should have it, Jak 3 was finally able to have its own identity, and the story and characters hit a lot harder because of it. The gameplay was also more fleshed out, offering a lot more weapons and a brand new racing mechanic that would be used in Jak X Combat Racing. Another game which, spoilers, is definitely going to make the 2020 list. I would have put it on this list too, but I didn't start it until January 1st, 2020. So while it waits, Jak 3 races to the number 5 spot.
Excuse me, Count Vulgar.
It's Vega!
Yeah, whatever.
This is the game I was waiting for while playing Katamari, but if I'm being honest, we were all waiting on it for quite a while. It had been over 13 years since the previous main series title in the game. We've had nothing but spin-offs and re-releases since Kingdom Hearts 2 in 2005. Now don't get too angry with me, because a lot of other Kingdom Hearts fans actually agree with this, but this wasn't quite as good as Kingdom Hearts 2. Especially Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. The combat was a lot slower and less diverse, Sora was ridiculously floaty, and the game was extremely easy, even on the harder difficulties. However, this does not at all mean it was a bad game. Kingdom Hearts 3 is still fantastic. The music is always amazing, the story is always fun, even if not as good as the previous 2 games. Watching Woody talk down to Xehanort or having Mike and Sully throw Vanitas in a series of doors never gets old. It's just overall still a very magical experience. Kingdom Hearts hasn't gotten boring since the day it began. And the third game is able to effortlessly keep up that trend. Kingdom Hearts 3 locks in the number 4 spot.
Excuse me, Count Vulgar.
It's Vega!
Yeah, whatever.
Back in 2017, the Game of the Year contender that I went with was Breath of the Wild. However, in 2019, I finally got around to one of that year's other top picks, Nier Automata. And before I dive in, let me just say something real quick. When I bought Nier Automata, it was the full game, plus all the DLC, and a special Game of the Year edition for just $40. Breath of the Wild is just as old as it, but is still $60 for the base game minus DLC on the eShop. Come on, Nintendo, put your stuff on sale! Anyways, Nier Automata is an extremely wonderful game. It has intense and fun combat, an interesting story, beautiful visuals, and the soundtrack is so overpowered that it alone is enough to make me want 2B and Smash. There's lots of places to explore, lots of people to meet, including an extremely thirsty sidekick for 2B that eerily looks a lot like a smaller version of me. I still have a lot of the game to go through though, and I'm excited to get around to it. I've only completed one of the storylines so far, and it was still enough to make it this high on the list. Nier Automata logs in to the number 3 spot.
Excuse me, Count Vulgar.
It's Vega!
Yeah, whatever.
Anyone who's been a fan of my channel for quite a while knows by now that I'm not the biggest fan of turn-based RPGs. Undertale, however, is a big, fat exception. Yeah, I was very late to the party. It took Sans getting a Mii costume in Smash Bros for me to finally try it out. And ooh boy, do I regret not getting into it sooner, because all the theories are out, all the lore is known. I totally missed that hype train. It of course has amazing music composed by Toby Fox himself, it has endearing characters, a pretty deep story, and a charming sense of humor. Plus, it also evolves turn-based combat in the best way possible. My experience with Undertale gives a pretty good lesson about stepping outside your comfort zone and trying something new. Because I never tend to avoid things just because they're popular. It wasn't that, it was definitely the turn-based RPG thing. And Undertale turned out being so much fun for me that I ended up playing it multiple times, not just for the multiple stories, but just in general. And I don't want to admit how many times I played and beat Genocide over and over just for the Sans fight before realizing that I could just not save after beating him if I wanted to fight him again. Undertale fills the number 2 spot with determination.
Excuse me, Count Vulgar.
It's Vega!
Yeah, whatever.
And number 1 is, who would have guessed it, Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled. It's the game I've been hyping up ever since it was announced, and talking about non-stop ever since it was released. I had high expectations for this game after how well the Insane Trilogy and Reignited Trilogy turned out to be, and yet this still blew me away. Not only is it a remaster of 2 games in one with Crash Team Racing and Crash Nitro Kart, but they also add boatloads of new stuff every single month for free. Yeah, microtransactions are there and people aren't happy, it would be better if they weren't there at all, but they're harmless. Especially considering how generous the game actually is with all the bonuses it gives you as well as all the different stuff to do that'll grant you even more coins. There is so much content in this game, it is extremely fun and addictive, and it's more than capable of holding me over until the next Crash game. Not only is the game itself fun, but it's helped my YouTube channel grow exponentially over the past year. It's gotten to the point where people even recognize me in the game and send me messages on PSN telling me what a big fan they are. It's really heartwarming. A game hasn't externally helped me like this since last year's #1 pick, Spider-Man, so I think that's more than enough of a reason why Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled should be the #1 here. I'm LeopoldTheBrave, and I hope you enjoyed my top 8. I'll try to play more games in 2020. LeopoldTheBrave out.